When a man considers marriage, he walks a tightrope stretched between the sweet promises of love and the silent traps of illusion. On one side lies the dream, to share your life, build, pass on, and rise together. On the other, the fall, joining with the wrong woman and watching your peace, dignity, and everything you've built reduce to dust. In today's world, saturated with simulations and emotional manipulation, love alone is no longer enough. You must test, filter, try, because beauty, sex, apparent gentleness, all of that can be faked. But a woman's true nature is only revealed through trials. It's not the goodwill of a moment that saves a life, but the consistency of trial and the clarity of mind. Marcus Aurelius adapted. That's precisely why I'm giving you the 6 major tests. Truth trials, sometimes brutal, yet essential. These tests aren't meant to break anyone. They are here to reveal, not to humiliate, but to protect the man you are and the one you aspire to become. Because it's no longer about hoping it'll work out. It's about knowing if she's made to walk with you or against you. You want an emotional fortress, not a sentimental sandcastle. You want a woman who is stable, loyal, coherent, not a short-term actress. So hold on, each test here is a blade. But better to bleed a little now than to bleed for 20 years in a toxic marriage. Subscribe, follow, share. If you want truth, no coach will tell you. If you want discernment tools that are brutal but lucid, subscribe now, because love without wisdom is a ticking time bomb. And the only way not to explode is to become a man who tests, who observes, who decides. Here is your roadmap. The No test. First blast, first revelation. The first test is the no. Not a mean or provocative no, but a calm, firm, undeniable refusal that serves as a mirror for your relationship. In dating, the habit is to please, to give in, to be accommodating, to earn love or peace. But maturity starts where servility ends. Saying no means drawing your line, giving yourself the chance to observe the other person without the filters of instant gratification and the need to please. Consider this. Too many men believe that always agreeing, playing the nice guy, will buy them peace in their hearts on credit. But they pay the price when, faced with adversity or a major disagreement, everything collapses. Why? Because she who has never experienced your refusal has never shown her true self. The no opens Pandora's box. Will she accept it with respect? Will you encounter coldness, or worse, an explosion? Practically, it starts with small refusals. Skipping an expensive dinner to prioritize financial responsibility, asking for a sexy photo to remain private, not replying to texts immediately because you're working, refusing to betray your convictions just to avoid conflict. These moments of friction are the first steps of personal integrity. The reactions you see are the keys. The one who accepts your refusal, even if she's disappointed, proves maturity and respect for the couple. The one who becomes distant, manipulative, uses silence or guilt trips, shows a love that's conditional, dependent, even toxic. Then there's the explosive type who won't tolerate any boundaries, threatens, yells, or throws emotional ultimatums. This test is crucial because it tells you whether your relationship is based on deep love or an endless chase for immediate satisfaction. The man who learns to say no masters his own path. Power begins with the ability to say no, said Epictetus. The man who doesn't impose himself from the start often ends up enslaved, chained to a life of endless compromise. It's better to lose a few illusory immediate loves than be sentenced to a lifetime of hidden self-denial. The fall from grace test, the trial of emptiness, the measure of loyalty. Once you've established your ability to resist, Love must pass through the trial of emptiness. The second test, the social descent, throws your relationship in the deep end. How does your partner react if you lose your pride in the eyes of the world? Money, status, stability, all that many shallow relationships thrive on can suddenly disappear. It's a violent test, but necessary, because life promises no eternal comfort. Imagine this. You announce you want to start a business, leaving behind your safe job, the job that reassured both of you. Or you radically cut spending to invest in a bigger dream. Or you simply choose to ditch the bling-bling, value simplicity and real priorities. Depending on her depth, your partner will react in one of three ways. She could step up alongside you, slowly withdraw, or explode and refuse any sacrifice. The one who stays, helps, supports, listens, and encourages you is rare, precious even. She doesn't complain about what she loses. She cares about what you'll build together. Sometimes she even inspires you to go further. In contrast, the one who leaves, goes out more, becomes less affectionate, or waits for your downfall to vanish, loved your status more than your person. Finally, the third, who panics, yells, blames, or humiliates you ahead of time, never prepared for real life. She'd follow you to the ends of the earth, but only in a private jet. Why is this test indispensable? Because no man's destiny is linear. Aging, illness, hardship, courage, anything can make the ship sink, even temporarily. If you're with someone only interested in your most successful moments, you'll end up powerless the day misfortune hits. Seneca said, "Fidelity is not measured in the light of comfort, but in the shadow of difficulty." It's better to know before committing if your partner is in it for the journey or the lifestyle. A real-life example? A brilliant engineer decides to quit and start his own company. He tells his girlfriend no more restaurants or weekend getaways for a while. Her cold reply, "That's your dream, not mine. I want to keep my life the same." 2 months later, she's gone, replaced as soon as uncertainty appeared. 3 years later, the man succeeds. But by his side, it's no longer the runaway, but the one who stood by him in the valley. The sexual discipline test. Detaching from the body, chasing essence. After social status comes intimacy. The third test, sexual discipline, might be the one fake couples dread the most, voluntarily turning off the sex tap. In an era where pleasure is currency and a tool of control, daring abstinence is the radical move for a man who wants to know if the connection goes beyond bodies meeting. The Stoic doesn't forego pleasure out of self-punishment, but in pursuit of truth. He wants to see if his partner loves him for his soul, for what he is beyond physical prowess, for the non-sexual intimacy he provides. Announcing a pause, calmly, for reasons of focus, inner cleansing, or to probe the real depth of the bond, often destabilizes shaky foundations. When desire fades, real interest or emotional dependence comes to the surface. The reactions say it all. The mature partner respects your decision, offers other forms of connection, and stays present and loving. The frustrated one becomes cold, argumentative, drops hints, sometimes even tries to tempt you into breaking. The manipulator exploits abstinence to show off, go out, entertain other options, bluntly expressing she deserves more or can't stand being deprived. This test, above all, shows you who loves your body and who loves you, because every couple will face periods of abstinence, pregnancy, sickness, psychological struggle, long-distance phases. If she can't handle 3 weeks without sex, how will she endure 9 months? A burnout, a crisis, or a major illness? The self-restrained man gains new strength, being loved for his essence, not just dopamine hits. As the reimagined Stoic truth goes, he who gives everything unconditionally never gets the truth. but by holding back, he reveals what truly matters. The principles: war test, morality on the table, shattering illusions. Love isn't only about pleasure or social struggle. It finds stability in compatible values and non-negotiable beliefs. That's the crux of the fourth test, the war of principles. Many believe time, love, and compromise will harmonize any differences. But building a couple is about merging two worldviews. If they clash, sooner or later, fire erupts. The Stoic doesn't hide his core beliefs to please anyone. He exposes them, even if it creates discomfort or sparks rejection. It could be beliefs about the man's role in the household, each person's place in the couple, boundaries not to be crossed, questions about children, money management, spirituality, or moral lines you won't cross. In asking these questions, you're not just observing answers, but also how she approaches them, respectfully, mockingly, aggressively, or cunningly playing along. Again, three main reactions emerge. The thoughtful, who may not agree but promises to respect your code and dialogue. The defensive, who attacks, calls you sexist or old-fashioned, and wants to rebuild you at the expense of who you are. The manipulative, who swears agreement until the wedding, then throws everything out once committed. This test aims for truth, nothing but truth. Failed relationships often come from hiding, minimizing, or delaying core issues for fear of losing out too soon. What you accept in silence today becomes your prison tomorrow, said Seneca. Shared morals are the couple's foundation. Without that, you'll only have humiliating concessions or endless conflicts. Better to lose a conquest than betray your soul. The loyalty in absence test. When the gaze turns away, the truth appears. Test 5, Loyalty in Absence, addresses a different, often neglected dimension. Far from arguing or seeking her reaction through drama, you simply create emptiness, a work trip, a consuming project, deliberately less attention. All are perfect conditions to see what happens when nobody's watching. As long as you're around, she plays her part. But as soon as you take away your light, her choices burst with raw truth. Does she remain faithful, discreet, caring from a distance? Or does she panic, endlessly demand attention, slip into emotional dependency or coded accusations? Worse yet, does she use her free time to run wild, post ambiguously, look for male validation to fill what you no longer provide? This test is brutal because it leaves no room for negotiation. It probes for true loyalty in the dark, where nobody's looking. True loyalty begins when vigilance ends. As Stoic wisdom says, many men only discover too late that their presence was the only guardrail against their partner's wandering. Once absent, the truth comes out. You didn't have a builder by your side, just a consumer of your presence, unable to build in silence, autonomy, or even patience. Picture this. You're in Paris on business, less active online, less available. When you return, some women will have used the time to grow, handle their own lives, keep the home fires burning. Others will have used your absence to explore, show off, or look for what you couldn't give. The emptiness reveals whether loyalty is a contract or a core nature. The inverse jealousy test. The double standard mirror, the final frontier. Lastly, the sixth test, inverse jealousy, brings it all together. The question of symmetry and absolute emotional justice. Many modern women demand total freedom for themselves. Posting sexy photos, keeping open social circles, chasing validation, while expecting their partner to practice the strictest public monogamy. The man must be discreet, monk-like invisible, while they collect likes and flattering DMs. So you flip the script. You polish your appearance, post photos where you shine, show up socially, Hold on to compliments instead of hiding them. Own your value without arrogance or shame. Observe, without justification, how she reacts. The responses repeat. The secure woman who trusts herself and won't try to lock you down. The double standard who panics, gets suspicious, wants all the freedom, but none for you. And the destructive who seeks to trigger your jealousy and escalate the conflict. This test matters because it tells if your partner truly loves you or just wants to lock you in a gilded cage. Love cannot stand imbalance, for it's only balance that survives in the light, said Marcus Aurelius. You must be as free, radiant, and desirable as she is. Otherwise, you're not her partner, but just an accessory for her ego, never able to challenge her own. Typical scene. You post an elegant selfie at a professional event, surrounded by a few female colleagues. She calls immediately, suspicious. Who's the girl on your left? Why use that filter? Yet just the day before, she posted a gym video in a tight crop top. Self-confidence only. You've just exposed the game of double standards. Across these 6 tests, it's not just the strength of your relationship you reveal, it's your own ability to respect yourself and never abandon discernment for the sake of illusory love. These trials aren't cruel games, but merciless truth revealers. A couple is strong only if it's born in light, loyalty, shared values, and authenticity. Anything less is just a masquerade, a prelude to frustration and disappointment. Dare to put each of these tests in place. Choose a raw truth over a long, comfortable lie. As Seneca said, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your relationships, not the sum of your compromises. In the end, what's more precious than being loved unconditionally, respected with no strings, and walking beside a queen who weathers storms as fiercely as she basks in the sun? Be that rare and lucid man who sacrifices neither his principles nor his freedom, but gives the woman who passes these trials a true, unbreakable commitment. That's what Stoic love is. Rugged, profound, and ultimately the only kind that lasts.